Hello, welcome back. I did another weeding blitz yesterday. I had it weeded, but everything is growing so fast now that it was covered in weeds again when I done that quick run around so that I'd have a record of what it was like going into this period of pretty much ideal temperatures. So I'm going to turn the camera around and tell you what I'm going to do now. You see, I've got some space here. Now I did plant some chickpeas here. And that little dot down there, I think that's a chickpea coming up there. There is a couple of onion seedlings that I add. But I do have several rows of chickpeas planted here. There's some more room right here. I only have the two squash out here, and then the two bean seed plants you can see. There is one small one which won't be noticeable on the video there. There's divots there, so I think I might have, I don't know what I planted there. I planted something. Most of the carrots come up, but there are spaces. Carrots is one of those things that, well, I can survive down to -4, but also they grow throughout the season. So if you have a small carrot, if it doesn't get time to grow to full size, well, you just have a small carrot, right? Small carrot's better than nothing. This one has more spaces in it. I have a volunteer, what looks like a Swiss chard. It starts with a B, broad fork giant or something like that. I have more Jacob's cattle beans that I can set. They don't seem to germinate that well, and if my memory serves me correctly, I had the same problem. Just a little note, those little squash plants are starting to put out their male flowers. Now, they put out male flowers a couple weeks before they put out a female flower at least, so I'm not worried about them spending extra energy. So I think I'm going to put back Jacob's cattle here, what seeds I have. You remember, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last video, but remember we had the carrot plant, the flower plant going to get seeds last year. I counted 15 volunteer carrots in this area. That's from seeds falling from that plant. There's a volunteer person up there. I think there's another one here somewhere. But the weeding is much more difficult here because I didn't put on that layer of compost. And now the roots are down into mineral soil and they hold right on. So another point that when you're doing your gardening, have that layer of compost on top. It makes it so much easier to weed the garden. This is done fairly well, actually. There's a couple little spaces there and one space there. Now remember, I planted them quite sparsely, so most of what I planted has come up. Beets, there's spaces. There's quite a few beets here, but there are spaces that I'm going to resow. Beets are only 54 days or if that, so they got plenty of time. If I sow more in those spaces now, they'll have plenty of time to grow. And here's the black turtle. I have more black turtle bean seeds, so I am going to set some more bean seeds in here. Most of them, though, see, all of these, that's the soaked ones. So we've done our experiments, pre-soaked the beans, plant them around the last frost. So, but now on July the 10th, I'm going to re-sow where the spaces that there are no bean seeds in this bed. You see, now that I've weeded it out, you can see the rutabaga in this bed is not doing as well as over across the way there in the sunny patch. There's not much spaces though. For the most part, they're all come up. In the back here, we've only had, it's 4, I'll show you the other one. So one chickpea plant in this bed, I was able to take the hoop hole, stirrup hole, and really go over this bed and make it nice and prepared. There's the 2 that I showed you, and the volunteer, some kind of a cole crop. And something ate the other chickpea plant that was here. Once again, I have some struggling. These 2 plants in the back here are the vegetable marrow, and you can see now the the transplant of tiger's eye done. I've got to put some other things here. I don't have any tiger's eye seeds. The potatoes are all up. As you can see, I need to mow some of the meadow. Anyway, I've got to mow the meadow and mulch all of these. All the entirety of 6 beds here and this bed. This bed can wait a little bit. The sun was out and my transplants I put here seem to be doing fine. I didn't show you this because I didn't even notice them before. There's 3 volunteer squash of some sort, and it looks like that might be one coming up right there. And then this morning I noticed, you see, there's some kind of a cole crop plant coming here, and one right here beside this squash plant. I don't know what that is. So I'm going to try to, when I mulch it, I thought about putting cardboard down around here, and then I said, wait a minute, if I put cardboard down there, the slugs are going to hide under the cardboard and they're just going to destroy those squash plants. So when I mow the meadow, I'm going to just mulch the entire area and just have spaces in the mulch around where the plants are. Right, so I give you a good look at the seaberry plants. I got 5 male seaberry and 2 female. That's all that survived over the winter. These 3 here, they didn't survive. I thought these were going to come. This is 2 red mulberry, and those leaves down there, it might be a red mulberry coming from the root, I don't know. And then the other male seaberry right there. So I'm going to set out what I just told you about just now, and then I'm going to go in and write up a list and tell you about all of the crops that we can sow in this area according to my records for the month of July. I've been recording daily max min temperatures. Computer calculates mean, of course. This is 2023, and I can go to it'll calculate the growing degree units, base 5, the accumulated growing degree units the year to date. I've been doing that back, I started in May of 2018, so from May I have 5 years worth of data, and of course May and June now I have 6 years. And I can go and see where was my first frost. The first negative temperature recorded is on October the 28th of last year. We did, however, have a light frost on October the 3rd, another one on October the 4th, and a third one on October the 10th. Back in 2021, our first negative record is the 26th of October. The first frost was the 21st of October. So, frost tender plants, it's somewhere up around the middle of October. If I go back to 2020, our first negative temperature, I believe that's the first one there. No, we had a -1 on October the 5th. So depending on the year, these are La Nina years, and they say we're going into El Nino now, and the people who are more in the know than I am say that El Nino means a milder than average winter season for this area of the world, which, going by my last 5 years, 2019, October the 3rd, just some light frost, and up to the middle of October we really don't get any frost. So depending on weather year to year, and like I said, they're expecting a milder than average winter season, so we might not get frost until late October this year. So at 300, see, this is 2019, my accumulated growing degree units was 1495. In 2020 I had 1745. In 21, 1715. 22, 1839. So going by that, I can expect to have 1100 growing degree units between now and first frost for cool season plants. And for frost tender, say about 1000, maybe a little less. For frost tender plants, well, this is 90 days, I think, up to 300. We're on July the 10th, 11th now, which is right here, 193. So that would give me 107. So about 100 days for frost tender plants to be out. A list of plants that I've recorded here, the ones that I thought I might be able to grow. So I've got the type, the variety, the species, so that's your scientific name, days to maturity, required growing degree units, and whether that's a base 10 or base 5 in Celsius. And the weeds are growing like crazy. Weed out, come out 2 days time, and I've got a bunch of big weeds again. So according to the last few years, of course that's not scientific. If you wanted to get statistical, you got to go 30 years because a day only comes once a year. But keeping records like I just showed you, once you get in 5 years, then start going by that for your own gardening, your own particular garden area. I can expect at least 90 days and about 110 growing degree units at a base 5 Celsius till my first frost. Jacob's cattle bean, that requires 95 days, and at an optimum of saying, an optimum is 18 degrees, that would give me 1,377 GDUs. So Planting Jacob's cattle now is pushing it, weather dependent of course. Tiger's Eye on the other end is 85 days and it's only 10-20 GDUs. So if I add more Tiger's Eye seed, then I could plant them now. Beets. Beets is an interesting thing that I've been thinking about because I was doing my research. Now they only need between 55 and 65 days and about 900 GDUs. But in my research I come across that they won't bulb up if planted when the soil is too cold. So I'm thinking that planting them late, like even if I wait till July, the soil has to be 10 degrees. Well, you're up till the middle of June here, I'd say, at least, before the soil gets up to that temperature. So if I wait until 1st of July to plant my beets, I might get better germination and a better growth of the root. So 1100 GDUs, if you go by most plants got a optimum growing temperature of around 18-20 degrees Celsius. That gives you about 61 days worth of growing at optimum temperature. Looking at it that way, I've got a list here. Beans, Candor Yellow, Golden Pencil Pod, Provider, Royalty Purple Pod, Stringless Green Pod, Tender Green Improved, and Valor. Any of those beans I can direct sow now. Beets, like I say, Boulder, Bull's Blood, Burpee's Golden, Chicago, Detroit Dark Red, Early Wonder, First Crop, and Ruby Queen. Carrots, Littlefinger, I grew those last year, and despite their name, they did grow to a fair size. So Littlefinger, Mokum, M-O-K-U-M, and Toucan. Swiss chard, of course Swiss chard is a leaf plant that can be harvested when it's quite young. Kale, any of the kales. Kohlrabi, most lettuces. Mustard greens. Of peas, Oregon Sugar 2 and Sugar Sprint. Potatoes, I still have time to grow Alta Bush, Alta Rose, Belanita, Caribe, C-A-R-I-B-E, Norland, Road Esterling, and that one I'll put it on the screen. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Any of the spinach. Summer squash, they'll be possible. The zucchini, yellow straight neck, yellow crook neck, the patty pan type. Turnip, that's the little white flesh turnip, not the rutabaga. And now, because some plants can grow at a lower temperature, I can also add to that list one broccoli, cabbage, baby Choi, early Jersey Wakefield, Tokyo Bacana, American purple top rutabaga, and the Laurentian varieties of rutabaga. You see, when you're growing kale, kale is a leaf vegetable. I mean, it's only July, and you see how big this one is. So, especially if I had started, because these take to transplant quite well, I could start these and have a going set of transplants to put in case I got spaces, which next year I got to remember that whatever takes good to transplanting, just have extra plants going ready to put in when it comes to this time where I'm sure that like I've lost things and there's spaces here and there. But so kale don't boil as fast. Lettuce, to plant that now, it'll just go straight to seed really. If I were to plant out in the sunny plot, but you see, the shade is creeping in here now. these two areas here, they only get the morning sun. They don't get any sun in the afternoon, and come later on now in late August, it'll start to get evening sun again. So I'm going to try to plant lettuce here and see what happens. I tried radishes, but radishes, they only go to seed for me anyway. The other thing I'm thinking about is something like lettuce and kale. You can plant, you can harvest them when they're, you can harvest them as baby greens for that matter. And I could put 100 here, just pack them right in. And when it comes time to plant the tomatoes, just pull them all up and plant the tomato there and away to go. Now I don't have to pull them all up, of course. I just got to pull up an area where the tomato is going, and then as the tomato plant grows, pull up more and more. So I'd have quite a long harvest of kale and lettuce if I started it that way next spring. And I've got this bed down here. The other thing is, if I put a net up this wall, I could probably put a row of peas or some other similar climber in the back here, and have the tomatoes outside of it. That's an ideal too. And then once again along here, I can, just as soon as possible, when there's no heavy frost coming, I can just whack in the frost tolerant greens and have a harvest very early spring. That's what I'm planting and planning on July the 10th, 11th in 2023. And hopefully things work out. We've been delayed a bit with a stuck jet stream earlier, so we're 3 weeks behind, but I think the gardener still has a good chance of putting out a good amount of produce. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.